Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back, one and all. Please join us on both channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts and also on EEARTS, as each one does have unique videos. Make sure you're subscribed with the little bells clicked. And we're going to be talking about the moon. We're going to be talking about a movie that was recommended by several people, and Cindy was like, we got to watch that, because I keep hearing it from too many different people. And it's called Moonfall. And if you guys have seen the movie, it's a typical disaster film in some ways, but yet it's kind of almost shocking and surprising, some of the stuff that they put out there, because you would think the power structure that is wouldn't want some of these things out there. But yet again, they're always giving us disclosure with a twist.
And there's always ways to tell, where is the truth? Am I being told the truth? And it's always, for me, it's never failed about this energy that I feel on my crown chakra and different parts of my body. It's like I just have to listen to my body. My body tells me when I have had an understanding of things in the past.
Absolutely. So yes, as you see, Lionsgate play Moonfall. Now, it is really about the moon falling. Yes, it is. It is. I guess we should say fair to say there's going to be some disclosure as to the movie, because we have to share some of these major points. So hopefully, if you guys want to watch the movie first, then come back to the video, feel free to do that. But we are going to disclose some major things. Maybe we won't give away the final secret, okay. But, there's a lot there. There's a lot there regarding consciousness and the moon. And this video we did March of last year while on the road, and we were saying, where the heck were we? I'm not sure. I think we were in Texas. It was entitled When They Take the Moon Away, the Reincarnation Control Grid. Now, we've done actually a bunch of videos on the moon, and there's some other ones that are over on Evolutionary. This one's up on EEARTS, because, the moon is a control grid. It is a mothership, so to speak. And many people have heard of this. And there is a time when the moon was brought here, and it probably wasn't as long ago as many people believe. What we got is that it was brought here during the Younger Dryas period. And so that's not too long ago. And it does have a huge effect on the Earth as far as gravitationally. And I do love the one scene in the movie where this one gentleman, who is a layman, he's not a scientist, though he portrays himself as a scientist, says, come on, guys, do you really think that you're going to have the moon positioned exactly where it needs to be in order to block out the sun precisely the same size? And of course, many will say, well, it must be an act of God. Yeah, which being that we took as God put that in place? Well, if we look to some African tribes, there are African tribes that say it was two warring brothers that put the moon in place. Two brothers who were not from here. They were from elsewhere. They were always having fights and arguing. Yes, and little Annunaki, that it was them that put the moon in place. And it's not just them. The Etruscans and people in many other corners of the globe, these indigenous people do have these legends. This one was, are we being deceived? If oil is a fossil fuel, why is there more oil on Titan, which is one of Saturn's moons, than there is on Earth? There's really, it's either not a fossil fuel, or there were a lot of creatures that became fossils on Titan. Hello?
There's just so much information, and it really is difficult to sort out what we're being told, the storyline, but that's why we listen to our bodies, and that's the best truth that we can find. And it is true that things that have been created in a good time period have been utilized in time periods where the vibration has fallen and they've become kind of a controlling construct, is what you might say.
Yes, and this one study shows Earth and Moon are not made of the same stuff. So that basically tosses out what was the dominant prevailing theory, that the Moon broke away from the Earth early in the formation and became its natural satellite. It's no natural satellite. There's no natural satellites in the same proportions that we've discovered. Only the Moon. It's too large proportionately to be a natural satellite. And so if they're not made of the same stuff, you could throw that dominant, what was the dominant theory, out the window. Was the Moon put there by the Annunaki? Aha, now we're getting somewhere. So in this movie, which was good in the things that it brought up, because it was really so interesting to see some of today's hot topics being brought up. And yet, of course, it's just your traditional Independence Day, 2012, knowing flick where, catastrophe abounds, and, you got the usual scenes of disaster that come through. But what was really cool is when they get inside the Moon and you see the technology that is inside the Moon. Now, that was fun. That was absolutely fun. And seeing them bring up things like Dyson spheres that are in the Vatican. Yeah, and talking about propulsion systems. As we've shared with you, what we've gotten from the guides is Nibiru is more of a ship. You could say it's a mothership now. It was a planet. But it's changed. The planet part of it is on life support. Again, we could equate that to Darth Vader. It's more of a machine than a man now, right? AI infused, absolutely. And Nibiru uses a black hole as its propulsion system, and that's what also wreaks havoc gravitationally when it gets close to other objects. And so what we get is that it's outside of the orbit of Uranus, Neptune right now, and it's not allowed to get any closer because it would cause disturbances. It's also on fourth density, so it's just a tiny hair at the moment, a little bit higher up in frequency than what the Earth is at this moment, but at sometime in the very near future, we'll be on a parallel density, and at that point, it will be solid as solid can be.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll be able to witness, see it, and understand on a different level. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things going on these days, and this was something that was really, really hit home. And it's again, it's these controllers that they have to tell us the truth. They have to tell us everything, and then it's up to us if we want to believe it. If we can watch this and we can say, oh, this is just all make believe, that's our choice. But they've done their part in the situation and they've put it out there for us, so their part of the contract is fulfilled. Now it's up to us to figure out what's true, what's not true.
Absolutely. There's so many people that went along with the recommendation of the powers that be and are now extremely regretting going along with a certain recommendation. And wish they had listened to the ones that were thought of as being on the fringe at this point in time. And I do gather that it's not too far ahead before all this is just insurmountably, irrevocably obvious. And right now, again, the great unveiling is going on. Damage is done. There's no way you can take back now the damage that has been done. And we're going to see a lot of changes in this planet and a lot of changes with the population on the planet. These are incredible times that people are going through, and we did do work on quite a few people today energetically, and everybody is having a tough time. Please do send out your prayers for our brother Marshall, who is in the prime of life and a strong, healthy man typically. that has a beautiful family that's relying on him for support, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, now he's really struggling. And so please send prayers for Marshall and Genevieve
and Shannon. Yeah.
and Shannon. Okay. Thank you guys so much for doing that as well. We need to send our intentions out to keep each other strong and healthy in these times when we are being assaulted in a very large manner. So the revelation in this movie that the outer surface of the moon is just basically a shield of sorts, as well as camouflage, because the inner workings are very, very high tech. And it is a ship of sorts, and it is, well, its purpose, without giving, well, I guess there's no way we can give away to
Well,
we got to tell you. I mean, the purpose was to bring survivors from one area to a habitable zone. And so, there were many of these vehicles that were made after an attack in a intergalactic war that involves AI. So AI is the bad guy in this, artificial intelligence. And it's interesting that artificial intelligence, they say, was created by humans. The artificial intelligence overthrew the humans, viewed the humans as a threat, and so started on to the path of exterminating all human life. And so according to this movie, we were it. We're just, we're the last of the refugees, but thankfully we're not. There are other outposts of humanity all over. There are many, but it is true that there is an intergalactic war ongoing as we speak. We're on the fringe of this, but at the same time, we're in the thick of it and right in the middle of the action.
Right, and the AI that we use, that is an entity that really, gosh, in the movie, they just put it so well, how the AI just decides, well, it's going to be superior because these other beings, the AI feels that they are inferior, so it takes on whatever form that it needs, this black kind of gook. I'm seeing, when I look at it, I see this AI black dragon, and they do a really good job of showing us what that might look like in terms of AI. But it's all of this information is constantly being pulled and taken from us and gathered in the AI, giving the AI ultimately the upper hand because we've given our power away.
Absolutely. So yeah, black dragon, black goo. Remember the movie Prometheus, the black goo, and in Prometheus, it starts with a architect or, one of the engineers or however you want to call them, that Annunaki-ish figure that willfully drinks it and you see his DNA crumble, but it's also bringing about that nasty hybrid entity. And so there's all this truth that's right out there in the open, the fact that the moon itself is not a natural satellite, that it is really... it's a station, a space station of sorts. It's there for monitoring. Now, they don't say it's really there for monitoring. They say that we just kind of... It went there and it created life on Earth according to the movie that made Earth habitable. And then the people went and jumped onto Earth from there. The ones that had survived. But when we look back at history, it's very, very different. And, it has been hidden up so obviously. Now, who created the AI in the first place? Well, what we get was it wasn't humans. No, it really was actually the Draco reptilians that created it, and then it basically enslaved them. And then they also, in turn, along with its help, enslaved many others, including the beings that we know as the Anunnaki. And the Gigi, and then all those that work under them. Some of those ones that look very Pleiadian, the Nordic aliens that came in contact with Hitler, again, those are ones that were conquered and that were assimilated into the AI, assimilated in the same manner that the assimilation is going on today, here. And if we were even to stop it where it is right now, we would already have lost a massive amount of people to this assimilation.
Right. I mean, that's just part of it. It's really disturbing to look at and take in, but we have to look at the reality of things. And sorry, sorry guys, and understand that we're up against something that's really, it's not nice. It doesn't have our best interests at heart. So we really have to raise ourselves up above the fray so we can entrain that energy to move up to a higher level, so we're not down there in the muck with it.
When you look at these photographs, they're looking at graphene oxide and different nanotech, and it's amazing what can be done and how it can morph, and the magnetic principles, magnetic pixie dust, not pixie dust, no, but it is magnetic dust. And yeah, it can be suspended in the air. It can be delivered in many different ways, and we know DARPA has been working on this and with this for a very long time. So again, just to reiterate, when people say, well, how could we develop AI that it has got this type of, capabilities? Because we didn't develop it. It was here before we were. As far as these bodies that we inhabit, again, our souls are eternal. We are consciousness. We're having this human experience. This is a temporary experience. But yet, these bodies, they were created after the AI already existed. So, this is alien technology. This is technology that, to use the term of the movie, is light years ahead of us, light years ahead of what we know. And of course, the technology that the controllers have is much more advanced than what you would ever imagine if you're a typical person just walking about on Earth that still follows the mainstream media. So yeah, graphene-based, different types of electrical, optical sensors. The technology is just incredible. Hydrogels, metal nanoparticles. It's a vehicle. Those are a vehicle. This is a war of consciousness. It's a war of consciousness. And on one side, you have, the ones, the dark side, the controllers. And these beings have been already assimilated into this AI matrix, this AI Borg. And, some will be very familiar and other ones maybe not so. But they have the same agenda. They're really serving that AI collective, because it is a collective. And so ultimately, what do they want to do? They want to gather source energy. Guess what source energy is? It's us. It's everything. Everything that carries a soul, so to speak, has source energy in it. And that's really what they're after. So, all these analogies of, Satan wants to get your soul. Yeah, okay.
We really have to understand that our thoughts and our emotions and where we sit with things, they're always listening. They're listening for instructions, and these entities do understand this. And I believe this is why there's so much trauma spread across the globe, because they want those emotions in a spot where they can be controlled, where they can be led, where they can be drugged somewhere, with somewhere where someone really doesn't want to go. But when you're in fear and you're traumatized, these are the things that they can do. And that's why it's so important for us to heal ourselves so that we are sovereign, we are free.
Absolutely. So this battle has been ongoing for a long time, and it's still ongoing to this day. It is a battle for our souls. What we have seen when it comes to the controllers is that, when they leave this, when they exit the stage from this 3D reality, the majority of them are in a very dark place. Well, we hear of hell. Well, it basically is. Hell is the lower fourth density. That's the home turf of the Annunaki and the Draco and many of these other beings. That's their home. That's a place of low vibrations that's ruled by especially fear, but also anger, jealousy, greed, and all those 7 deadly sins. There is so much truth that is hidden in plain sight. Again, Satan ultimately means the adversary. And ultimately, angel meant messenger. That's really what it translated to, messenger. So when we realize that this is an interdimensional, intergalactic battle, and yes, there are extraterrestrials, there are interdimensional beings, there's life all over out there. How could there not be? Again, it's just really the controllers that want to get people thinking that they're it, nothing real but the here and the now. And that, your consciousness is a byproduct of chemical reactions. And that couldn't be farther than the truth, as they usually do give us a lot of things that are completely inside out and upside down. So when you look at the Pleiades is where a lot of, people that have lost their home turf have gone to basically, they're refugees. We see the refugee crisis on Earth, as above, so below. This is how it works. So yeah, there's tons of refugees that have left Lyra and have gone to the Pleiades and elsewhere. And again, we're mutts. We're mutts. We have to recognize that too. Humanity is a bunch of different, humanoid beings, humanoid races, a bunch of different ones coming together. This is really the quote unquote origin of the species. It's has nothing to do with, and it's hilarious to think of how they've tried to tell us it just has to do with melanation. If you're by the equator, yeah, but then we have people that develop by the equator in South America, in basically the South Pacific, that look different than people in certain parts of Africa. And then you look to Africa, you have pygmies, and then you got giants. We have such a wide variety. The answer is that there's people that have interacted here on this planet from other planets for a very long time.
Our galactic history is very large. It's very vast. And as we're sitting here in these human bodies, it is difficult to tap into every single one, but we can tap into those that are relevant during this time, during this process, during this journey here on Earth. We can tap into the ones that we really need to help our soul growth. But we want to remain in a place where we can grow. Our souls can grow. We don't want to be locked down into that lower dimension where we don't have that expansion. Love expands. And as long as we just keep moving toward that energy, that expansive energy, that's just going to help heal us and bring us more to a place where we can be free.
Absolutely. And so, as I had shared the other day, there's many people that feel like they just don't want to be here anymore. They want to go home. Where is our home, really? Well, for many of us, it's on what we would call the fifth density. That is home. And again, through the changing of the ages, the lowering of the frequency, depending on where we are in the galaxy, and we go through this cycle where we come around and we're close, unfortunately, to these beings. And thankfully, we're going to be moving away from this area, but the war still is ongoing. And again, this is a war all about frequency, all about vibration. They want your company, but yet we want to go home. And the other thing to recognize is that the amount of your consciousness that resides in your physical body is not the entirety of you. You're more than this. This is only a portion of you. And that's one of those things that, again, just through constant meditation and a lot of diligence and hard work, that you could get this realization. And often it really is lifetimes of work as well to understand just how expansive we truly are and interconnected. So for us, really, in some ways, it is about a reintegration and going back home.
Mm-hmm. Right. And keeping ourselves in a higher vibration is really key right now. And just take note of all the things that they're trying to do to pull us down, and don't allow that to happen. Honestly, there are a lot of people who are extremely sensitive and who are evolving, having a very difficult time right now. And I just want to tell you guys, really be good to yourself. Give yourself a break. Don't be hard on yourself, because this is not a space that's conducive to our healing all the traumas that have been done down the lines.
So what we've also gotten is that there is going to be an opportunity in the upcoming next few months. Now, we've been talking about the challenges coming in the next few months, and it's fascinating how, again, opportunity is often born from challenges. And that seems to be the same, the case with this opportunity. Now, we do know the Lion's Gate's coming up, but we're looking a little bit past that. And in the next few months, though, there should be an opportunity, not for all souls, so to speak, but certain souls to reintegrate to a higher level than they have been able to. So there are new avenues, new roads opening up for our consciousness that will allow a reintegration to take place. And what will that look like? Well, that's going to be unique in some ways to each person. But just an expansion of your consciousness to where you will just know things. Knowing. And not that like, okay, I'm studying for a test. Now I got these things memorized. No. That's not about memorizing. It's about knowing. We can have all these letters after our names. They just basically tell us, well, you've memorized this or you've memorized that. But do you really know? There's such a difference between the two. Knowing is when there is this change that occurs in us at a certain level, and it's more of an emotional frequency level. And somebody had stated before that correctly, in our opinion, that the Tower of Babel was basically where the pineal glands were shut off, and we were no longer able to communicate telepathically. Yeah, that is absolutely correct, and that's when we started to create these languages and communicate verbally, and we lost something because. When you have that, and Cindy could probably discuss it better than me in some ways, when she's communicating with beings on these different densities, there's this information that comes across, but it's not like the way we do things typically in this society here on planet Earth in this time frame.
No, not at all. I mean, information flows back and forth in a sense where you're trading emotions, but you're still talking. It's all telepathic information. So you might be getting pockets of information, and then it's all about the translation, and you use your understanding to receive said information and have it translated. So it's different. It's all telepathic, and we are coming up on a time when many of us who are ready are going to have a shift in frequency, and that's going to shift our perception a lot. It'll be very much like having a huge epiphany, and when we have these epiphanies, it really changes everything, and you understand things at a different level. So that's definitely coming up and bringing us our sovereignty, a lot of sovereignty that's been taken from us. We just have to keep ourselves in a space where we are open, receptive to healing.
Seeing things from a totally different perspective, as if you could suddenly be taken up and, brought far enough away from the planet that you could take the entirety of the planet in. But not just that, as if all of a sudden you could also not only see into, our reality from above, but also look into fourth density and see what's there, and perhaps even heading up towards fifth density, or for some beings actually seeing what's existing there in front of them all this time, but on a density they couldn't touch before, except for maybe just in deep meditation. So this is going to happen in waves. This is what it feels like. It's going to happen in waves. So the first waves should be happening in the next upcoming few months, 2-3 months, somewhere in that range. There will be a change in the consciousness of some here on Earth, and it will keep going on as time goes on. Also, because people are affecting more change than the power structure wants, there are going to be more opportunities for us to get out of the system. So just as they come in and they're going to try to implement all these things that we know what they're going to do, we understand, we know their plans. We know what they're going to do, so we devise and we come up with inspirations for what we're going to do to counteract that, so we get more and more out of the system. At some point in time, those that decide to stay in the control matrix that has been on the planet, that dark AI control matrix, we will not see them anymore, those of us that are back on that reintegration path with our higher selves. They will no longer be there. And so here again, you get into that ascension and rapture talk, because, again, what's the rapture really? Some have equated it to, of course, the traditional thing is, Jesus is going to come back. He's going to sweep us up into the clouds with him and take us to heaven. And really, what do we mean by that? What do we really, really mean by that? Is it simply not the case that we're just talking about shifting perspective and shifting our personal vibrational frequency? Because it is all about our vibrational frequency, which can change at the drop of the hat. You could come out of a great meditation or have been listening to some very, very uplifting, spiritual type music and be in a great place, and all of a sudden you get a text and somebody died, or you got fired, or something happened. And all of a sudden, whoosh, you're crashing like a rock. This is what we have to learn how to guard against these big emotional swings, because this is also why they're going to hit us with everything they have like a sledgehammer. And they are doing it right now. They are most definitely trying to beat us down because our pushback is having a positive effect. Timelines are not set in stone. They're constantly changing. If you could see it, you could look at it like a picture screen showing different pictures one after another, changing so fast you can't keep up with it. That's more like the reality of reality.
Mm-hmm. We need to keep ourselves in a place of healing. We need to understand that, yes, we are struggling a lot with our emotions right now, but that's okay. That's going to lead us to a place of healing, because the discomfort that we experience, of course, we want to be released from that, but we're not going to be released until we look at it, we understand it, and we accept it as a part of us. So there's a lot of accepting that should be going on, as well. As difficult as things may seem, we need to find acceptance in many things, and once we find that acceptance, we can find peace, and it's that inner peace that's going to bring us these new shifts.
So we hope you guys found that interesting. Please do leave your questions, comments, thoughts. We love looking at them, and we try to get back to as many as possible as we could, time allowing. As always, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Much love. Keep putting out those high vibes. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.